All right, and we're live. Welcome, everybody, to another Maple Academy event. This one's going to be a good one. We got Michael Delisio, and he's going to be talking about how to build the ideal marketing team for your organization. And as always, we're going to have a half an hour of him talking, and then we're going to do Q&A. You can definitely post your questions now or as he's talking, and we're going to cover them at the end, whether you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube or in the event. And just a bit about Maple. Maple, we are a platform that connects brands to expert marketers. So we have a community of 1,000 marketers. They're all vetted and have proven results in their different channels, in different niches. And when a new brand comes to us, then we match them with an expert marketer that has experience in that niche or in that channel that they're dealing with. So essentially, it's like skipping the learning curve. Instead of hiring somebody that seems like a good candidate, spend 6-9 months, then find out they're not good for your business or whatever, something doesn't work. You have people that you can look at their data, you can look at their experience, they've been vetted. And you can also build teams through Maple. So that's a bit about us. And now, on to our main show. Michael, take it away.
Thanks, Ben. And good segue with building teams, because that's really kind of the theme for today, is how to build the perfect digital marketing team. This is really intended for those who are either looking to bring the marketing in-house, or for businesses that may just be getting started with a real marketing initiative and are unsure of what to do. With that age-old question, which is, should I build it in-house, or should I hire an agency, or should I hire freelancers, contractors, whatever it may be? So this is going to be kind of a guide of how it can be done. I'm going to do it from the point of view of building an in-house team and what the benefits and drawbacks are, and then we'll kind of talk about whether that's the right fit for maybe your business, or if maybe a different alternative is the way to go. So what are the benefits of an in-house team? You get alignment with your company and goals. You get quick decision-making. So you have the people presumably in office, or at least people that you're going to be talking with if it's remote, on a regular basis. You've got confidentiality, which is always nice, especially for certain industries. And you have to worry about them sharing with your competitors or working with your competitors. You get their focused attention. They're not going to be doing multiple different types of things. They're going to be working on your project alone. And there is long-term cost effectiveness. Now, I start with the first point of the drawbacks of initial costs, because although there are long-term cost effectiveness, there's going to be a lot of investment up front. So you should be aware of that. There's also the danger, especially if you want to start small with a small team and then expand, of having people wear too many hats. I've seen this multiple times, where instead of creating a whole robust team, you're going to hire maybe 1 or 2 people to handle all of the different roles. I see this a lot, especially in the nonprofit sector, where a lot of people get a lot of responsibilities and they get kind of crushed by them, and they don't hit their real goals. It is resource intensive, not just software that you have to pay for all of the different marketing needs, but hardware as well. Your team will need computers. They will need maybe a space if you're doing it in office. And the ROI delay is due to, there's a ROI delay due to a learning curve. So there's the phenomenon many people are aware of drinking from the fire hose. Your team's probably going to have to learn, maybe in a month or 3 months, everything about your business in order to digest that and then to competently execute upon it, instead of, say, an agency or an expert that's well-versed in your industry. So just a little about myself before I continue. I've worked in the field of digital marketing for over 18 years, focus on digital strategy, but I've worked in almost every sector that you could possibly think of, with respect to digital marketing. I picked this as a topic because I've had to do this 3 separate times in 3 separate capacities, once for a marketing agency, once for a national healthcare practice, and once for a national nonprofit. I'm going to really draw upon a lot on the healthcare practice, just to give an idea of the results from what we were able to achieve. We were able to see a lot of growth in organic traffic, about 134% in a 4-month period of time, an uptick in email leads. We grew our annual revenue to $9.4 million. We cut costs per lead, and we started an initiative for an e-commerce certification program that we took from 0 to 500,000 in ARR in the first year. So I do know how to do this, but I want to kind of walk through with you how it can be done. So let's build one together. I'm going to make this a fictional med spa, another organization that I worked in once upon a time, and kind of go through what a small business like a med spa, which they have a product that has a high cost of sale, which is always attractive when you're doing digital marketing. And look at what their services are. They do cosmetic treatments, minimally invasive procedures. They also have an e-commerce section where they're selling skincare products on this e-commerce site. And their goals are to book 20 clients a day and to sell 100 products a day online. So these are our modest goals for our first couple of years. So how do we get started with this? Our first hire is going to be a digital strategist. That was, of course, my role in most of these positions. If you are going to be hiring for a role like this, you'll want to put out ads for or contact a headhunter or whatever it may be for director of digital marketing, maybe lead digital strategist. I've seen that before. There's also chief digital officer, even chief marketing officer if your only marketing is going to be digital. And if you want somebody of a high caliber with more business chops than, say, just an analytical person. But the responsibilities are going to be to develop this whole strategy, to work with the executives and the business decision makers on what the goals are and how to achieve those goals, and to perform the lion's share of the research and analysis with respect to the market that you're going for and your competition. Should be very analytical person, should communicate well because they're going to be working with a team and with the executives, and they should be a strategist at heart. They're going to be setting the foundation. They're going to be focused like a laser on ROI. And this is something I want to repeat over and over again. The whole raison d'etre for this initiative is ROI. And they're going to be overseeing the team and the report, and they're going to be reporting to either the COO or the CEO, depending on your org structure. What's phase one? Phase one is creating a plan. So to get started, we've got to identify what our audiences are. We got to analyze our competition. We've got to define the key performance indicators for success. We're going to act upon our research. We're going to do a SWOT analysis. For those unfamiliar, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, to really see what we can have as a competitive advantage and what we can plan for. And then to really build that team. This person, the digital strategist, should be instrumental in building that team, working with the executives. Again, focused on achieving an ROI. So this is a real back of the napkin exercise. I use this calculator. And in fact, if you came to the last webinar, I took a similar screenshot. In order to get just the real basics of what do we need to do to get started, how can we practicably achieve an ROI, and what are our, what can we do to build success? This really looks at kind of the funnel view and what we need in terms of baseline. So we're saying based on our goals, that's going to be about 26,000 clients that we're going to be scheduling in our med spa over a 5-year period. Average value sale, $4,000, which would achieve us about $21 million in annual revenue. We are setting conservative funnel numbers. So we're saying that we're going to get a year-over-year rate of growth at about 5%, month-over-month 10%. We are going to get a closing rate. And just to look at it from this view, and I'll just take 1 month to make the numbers a little less scary. We're going to need, if we want to achieve about 220 sales in the first month, we will need to get about 7 million impressions that at a 2% click-through rate would get us about 136 clicks with a conversion rate of 5%. That would then get us around 7,000 contacts with a lead to opportunity rate about 13%. And these are all kind of just industry standard base numbers. You can adjust them to whatever you believe is more realistic. Would get us around 880 market qualified leads. And then if we can close a quarter of those, that would get us our 220 closes for the month. So this is a good way of kind of structuring a funnel to then say, okay, how do we now get 7 million impressions on a monthly basis? And if we were, by the way, paying solely for these with like a cost per click model, that would be about $482,000 a month. So that may not be realistic within our budget. It may be, but this is all the type of work you need to do before you even get started with a marketing program. Our next hire is going to be a project manager. In a smaller organization, the digital strategist may double as a project manager, but in this ideal scenario, we're going to go full hog and we're going to get the right role, the right person for each role. Project manager is going to be the planner, the executor, the person who is making sure everything happens. They are going to be well-versed. They should probably even be certified. There are 2 main certifications I'm familiar with in my work experience with project managers. Those are PMP, it's like project management professional, and a Scrum Master. These are often found in corporate world, but I think they're essential for small businesses as well. They share different skills, or they have similar skills of, say, a lead chief digital officer, but they have other aspects and other qualities that you'll want, which is going to be like a organizational skill, time management, the ability to communicate with all of the different parties and make sure that everything is coordinated properly. Using a project management software like Asana or Jira, if it's more technical. The whole role is to ensure the effective execution of the activities and making sure that everything's on track. So you can use whatever type of project management tool works best for you. I like, especially for non-technical teams, Trello. I think Trello is good, especially for content. For more technical teams, I have used Teamwork. I've used Basecamp. I've used Wrike, which is a fairly new one. They all are worthwhile. If you're interested, let me know and I'll tell you the pros and cons of each one. But you should definitely have something that is going to keep your team organized and coordinated. That moves us into phase 2, which is going to be the digital infrastructure. This is your web team. And again, depending on your budget, maybe this is one role, but it really should be at least 3, in my opinion. You need UX, UI, that's user experience and interface. You need backend solutions, and you need web security and like server management. The main role for a web dev manager is going to be to manage the flow of the code and the applications, the architecture. This is really like if you're a coder, PHP, SQL, JavaScript, all of the things that are kind of the engine that's maintaining the site itself. This should be a problem solver and a team player. Your designer is going to be slightly more creative. They may have coding skills, but they're going to be mostly front-end development skills. That's like HTML, if you're familiar, or CSS. Sometimes they are JavaScript savvy, but it's usually those 2 main ones. But more importantly, they're going to be creative and be able to use something like Adobe Design Suite or Creative Suite in order to create the good looking work that you're going to want to put forth in your website or in your emails. And then you're going to need a person who sometimes are called infrastructure managers, IT managers, whatever it may be. This is somebody who's making sure that everything's working. They're going to be the server. They're going to be in charge of the domains. They're going to be in charge of all of that technical stuff. Now, this is a role that I think gets often overlooked, not talked about a lot, but it is so important. And I really want to stress the importance of somebody to fill this role of a director of data intelligence. Sometimes they're called data analysts. This is somebody who is, and this is why digital marketing is so powerful and why it works, in my opinion, so much better than traditional marketing for the large part, is the ability to get real-time data and to adjust to it. And this is why this person is so important. They are going to be an analytical mastermind. They are going to understand how all this stuff works. They're going to collect the data. They're going to create the reporting for decision making. They're going to be identifying the insights from your campaigns that they can pull out and present. They're going to be skilled in analytics tools, the most basic, of course, being Google Analytics, but there are, especially in the face of GA4, which is the new Google Analytics, which most people I talk to are dissatisfied with. There are paid versions that are preferable. And there are also other tools like Optimizely or Hotjar, I'll get into in a little bit, that can help really pull other types of data out that can help with the overall program. Their role is to inform the strategy, to help us adjust while we are working. And they're going to be tracking the performance, identifying areas of improvement, and informing the CDO or the CEO on whether or not this whole strategy is working or not. Leading us to phase 3, content marketing. So what is a content marketer? They are really trying to align the market research done by the director of digital marketing, and they want that content to resonate with the markets identified, so that there's going to be a successful campaign. You can do all of this technical work, but if you don't have the messaging correct, and if you don't have it created in a sufficient volume, you're not going to have the success that you could. So you need somebody who is skilled in this. The goals are to generate the awareness, to establish a social media presence, to help collect data for the data intelligence manager with the content created. I'll show you what I mean by that, to really execute the content plan. So this is a flow of process of just kind of what a content manager should be aware of. And if you have any questions, our friend Ben, who introduced me, is a content manager. He can talk really well about this, I'm sure. But what we are doing here is we've identified our different audiences for our med spa. We've got women 35 to 50, men 35 to 55, et cetera, et cetera. All of these arrows represent a problem, a situation that these audiences have that we can then create content for. We want to look at search intent based on our research to see what exactly people are looking for when they do either a Google search. What are the types of words they're using? What is the content that comes up when those search terms are put in? And what kind of solutions can we create with our content? And if we don't have solutions, what kind of other expert information is tangential to those ideas? This is really especially important for SEO, but all of this stuff will inform all of the different aspects of content that we create, from email to social media to anything else. With this content that we've created, we're going to create a digital asset management system, or DAM. This is going to be a repository of keywords, of videos, of images that we've created that address those problems that we've identified. And then all of those act as our kind of building blocks for all of the different content that we're going to create. So for example, with our keywords, we can use them to create content briefs that we can then send to our content creators. We can create PPC campaigns. We can create our on-page SEO. We can use this for persuasive content to increase our conversion rate optimization. And we can use this when creating content that we're going to use in digital PR or outreach when we're trying to build links to our website or trying to build awareness through PR means. This is going to be that role of the content manager. They're going to be managing this content. They're going to be, in many ways, a project manager, but they're also going to be developing that strategy for our short and long-term goals. They're going to be collaborating with the designers, the content creators, also our marketers, and maybe even external influencers, if that's a road that we're going to go down. If you watched last week's webinar that was all about influencer marketing, the content manager is going to be intimately working with somebody like that. The key skills are going to be writing and editing, SEO knowledge and project management, but also a bullet point I didn't put in here is really just a good eye for aesthetics. Should be somebody who understands, for lack of a better word, just artistic quality or aesthetic quality. They should be able to recognize whether a video is captivating, whether the messaging is right, whether it looks good, whether it's the website itself or any sort of piece that's created on behalf of the organization. The role, of course, is to drive engagement and conversions. They're going to be organizing this content with the content creators via a content calendar. Here's an example of one we use in-house for my agency, where we've got our theme, we've got the type of content we're creating, we've got the person it's assigned to, the start date, the status, the audience, the content brief, and et cetera, all of the data that we need to be organized and coordinated. We also want to have something like a content dashboard, because one of the issues I think a lot of business owners have with respect to content is that it feels detached from any sort of bottom line, but that's simply not the case. You can create a way of tracking how much everything is costing and what kind of leads or sales you are getting from that based on tracking organic leads, organic traffic. It's not listed here, but also organic social media. And email marketing, so that you can say, okay, we spent X amount on our content for this month. We were able to get Y amount of leads. And so in this case, we had in this month, $28 cost per lead. So this is a way of kind of quantifying the type of content work you do. And you should also be organized in terms of, for example, in this is a writer management sheet, where I blocked out the writers' names here, but you can see each one had their own management sheet. And then that all gets into a pipeline. So we can see how many pieces are assigned, how many pieces are in queue, how many are pending approval, and on, so that you know, are we producing? Are we hitting our numbers? And are we completing? In this case, this snapshot was an 81% completion rate. Is that good? Is that bad? These are all of the things that the content manager should be reporting up and letting know, so that we can always be improving what we're doing. Leading us to the content creators themselves. Again, depending on budget, this may be something where a content manager is actually creating the content, or perhaps the UX UI designer as well. I've got our bullet points here, but basically these are the people creating the content that we need. They should be qualified in what they're doing. If they're writing, they should be good writers. If they're making video, they should be video editors, and so on and so forth. They are the level of quality that resonates throughout all of our messaging. If they don't succeed, your messaging isn't going to succeed. So it's very important to create quality content always. I was just reading an article today on how Google has put quality as their number one signal in terms of search. So we always want to make sure that we're using quality. My last webinar was on AI and how AI can help. I still do not believe that creating AI content is a good strategy for a lot of this type of work, because you do want that essence of quality that AI at present still lacks. Phase 4, campaign building. So this is going to be focused on the paid aspects of our campaigns. That is paid search, PPC, Google Ads, and paid social media. That may be using Meta or TikTok for business, whatever it may be. Again, this is all just bottom line work, whereas organic is something that takes a while to build up, but is an asset. Paid campaigns are going to be getting you immediate traffic, but of course, it's something you have to continually do. And so you need to make sure that you're doing it in a cost-effective manner. You want to have a predetermined cost per acquisition before you get started, and or ROAS, so that you know what you can't go over when you're spending. This should be the role of a campaign manager. So this is your next hire. What do? They're going to be planning the campaigns set forth by the guidelines created by the director of digital marketing. They are going to be the front line of monitoring. They should be nose deep in your campaigns on a daily basis. And they should be coordinating with the other teams. So they will need the content. So if they say, I need a landing page for this new campaign we're running, that's something they need to coordinate with the content manager or the project manager. They also will have aspects of project management in what they do. But really what you want is somebody who's good with the numbers, good with analysis, and knows how to work in a platform like Google Ads or like Meta Ads. So that's really what they're going to be working with, right? This is from Google Ads, this is Meta, and these are the type, this is basically going to be their life, living into these different platforms. But again, working with your content creators so that you're getting the effective messaging that's going to make their campaigns effective. I'm going to put social media manager in here as well at this time, although I will say for small businesses, I usually recommend that organic social media be left once you feel comfortable with how all of your other campaigns are running, because this is often one of the most challenging things to do well. But if you get somebody who's good at it and you really believe in organic social media, it can be done well and cheap. But it takes skill and effort. The primary roles for, in my experience, is somebody who can network really well, because going back to our impressions, you can create all the great content in the world. If you aren't building a network, you are not hitting that funnel of the impressions to sales, because you just don't have enough people. I will often work with companies and they talk about their social media and what they're doing, and I'll go and they've got less than 1,000 followers. So if you use those same percentages for social media, the odds of them making a sale through organic social media are going to be a lot lower until they can expand their network, right, to perhaps 10,000 at like a minimum. So the number one skill is for this person to build their audience. Now, of course, that's going to require communication skills and good content skills. They should, as well as working with the content manager, be a good content creator themselves. Oftentimes, this role is done by a content manager, but it really should be its own role, because to be done properly, it needs total focus. And then lastly, an email marketing manager. This is another area where somebody should be totally focused on this, because it is your number one channel in terms of closing rate, provided that you're building warm lists, you're getting permission-based lists that you're working off of, which is the job of all of our other people, right? But our email marketer is going to be developing these marketing strategies. They're going to be distributing them. They're going to be coordinating them. If they're working on something like MailChimp, they're going to be living in MailChimp, and they're going to be making sure that all of the metrics are working well. They should have analytic skills as well as copywriting skills. So this is kind of a good jack of all trades, but I've worked with some really good email marketing managers, and they are essential to a good campaign. They're going to be making sure that they're driving significant ROI, because this really is, to this day, in my opinion, the best channel, provided you're building good lists. Lastly, we've got, in terms of our phases, data-driven optimization. So this is really where our data analyst is going to shine. They're going to be evaluating the effectiveness of the campaigns that we've created. They're going to be making those adjustments. They're going to be optimizing our spend so that we're not wasting money on our campaigns. They're going to be looking for insights to make our campaigns better, things that we did not start with in our initial hypotheses. They're going to be saying, hey, what about this? And then we're going to experiment. This is really like the laboratory as well. This is doing your A/B testing, your experimentation, to try to optimize for better ROI. These are some of the main KPIs to track. There are, of course, many KPIs to track. Aside from ROI, which again is your number one, this gives you kind of that funnel view, I believe, with a couple of different asterisks mixed in. So you've got your website traffic, which is kind of your top of the funnel. You've got your conversion rate. You've got your customer acquisition costs, the lifetime value of a customer or average order value or both, and then the retention rate, so that you're understanding how much all of these are going to be factoring into your ROI, right? But I want it to be simple. I don't want people to get bogged down in what position is this keyword for us? What is the cost per click for keywords? You shouldn't, especially if you are an executive or a business owner, do not worry about those little details. Those are the work of a campaign manager or an analyst. You as an executive should be saying, are we hitting our numbers? Are we hitting our goals? If it's too much, then you can ask questions and then you can wonder and look deeper under the hood. But really, your report should be this. If you're successful, great. If not, then you can look into why and trust your team to be coming up with those answers. This gives us one more role. Again, potentially the role of a director of data intelligence, but especially in something like a med spa. But if you're a larger organization, you may want somebody who is focused on reporting. Basically, the roles here are going to be to generate your reports, to be providing actionable insights, to be presenting these to management. They should be well-versed in a data visualization tool. Looker Studio is the example I give here. There are others. They should be analytical, clearly, and they should be really trying to help optimize these strategies. Here's a view of a good high-level report. This should be like page 1, in my opinion, for most businesses. So you've got your product views here. You've got the percentages that we were going over in our initial calculator. So we're saying, okay, we got almost 200,000 product views. Of those, almost 6% added to cart. Of those, almost 2% checked out. Of those, 0.8% sold. And that is our bottom line revenue. That's a really good view. Now, whether those numbers are successful or not are going to be dependent on your business goals. But this should be what you're looking at on a regular basis, weekly, to get an understanding of how things are going. Okay, so that really concludes the buildup of our team. This is just kind of a last snapshot of what the org chart would look like. So you've got your director of digital marketing who is working with a team of, in this case, 4. We've got our director of data intelligence, our web dev manager, our content manager, and our project manager reporting to the director. And then under them, you can see that we've got our campaign manager that is handling all of the various campaigns, the SEM, SMM, email, et cetera, et cetera. Our data analyst is doing our testing, our conversion rate optimization, our reporting, and our research and development. Our web dev doing UX, UI, IT. Content manager is managing the content, the creatives, and then our digital asset management. Last thing I want to really touch upon is software, just so you can kind of understand everything that is involved. I'm going to start with the basic necessities. So you need a content management system, i.e. a website system. WordPress is probably the most popular right now. Webflow is a good new one if you're interested in starting. I'd be happy to talk about that. This is basically to publish your content for your website. An e-commerce platform, there's Shopify, there's WooCommerce. This is to manage online sales if that's what you do. SEO tools, So you should have at least the free tools of analytics and Search Console. There are other paid tools like Moz, Ahrefs, SEMrush, etc. This is just to help you understand how you're doing in terms of organic traffic. And then an email platform like MailChimp, where you're going to be managing your email campaigns and your subscriber lists. Can also kind of work as a CRM. There's also Hootsuite for social media. I mentioned analytics already. And then, of course, a true CRM like HubSpot. I like HubSpot. A lot of people use Salesforce, although I would recommend moving to something a little bit more streamlined. Salesforce is an older and very bulky and very difficult software, in my opinion. Very useful software. Project management software like Asana. I also like Wrike. I think that's a good one that you can use. Graphic design software like Adobe Creative Suite, an A/B testing platform like Optimizely, and a data visualization tool. I mentioned Looker before. There's also Tableau. I don't have personal experience with that, but I know a lot of people who like it. These are not necessary, but they make life easier. SEMrush is kind of like my tool of like my Swiss Army knife. I use it across the board for many different things. There's chatbot software like Zen. I'm blanking out. Something Zen Chat. There's also Drift. There's an influencer outreach platform. Again, I'm going to defer to our previous webinar host who discussed influencer platforms. And then a heat mapping tool like Hotjar. I really like Hotjar. I think it is still useful, but it's not something you have to pay for, in my opinion, forever, unless you are doing massive amounts of A/B testing. Okay, let's talk about the costs. So I broke this down into option 1 and option 2. So option 1 is if you want to start small. Option 2 is if you want to go the full 9. Option 1 is going to combine all of these into, say, similar roles, meaning the director of digital marketing could do all 3 of these. Not ideal, but they can. Ditto web development for the web team, the content manager for content creating, social media, and email, and a data intelligence and reporting analyst. Just for that basic option, you're looking at, in terms of salary, and I'm picking just kind of like basic salaries. You may find cheaper, although I would not recommend it. And you're looking at a estimated salary of close to $500,000 a year. If you went with option 2, it's more like $1 million a year. So again, does this match my budget? Does this match my ROI goals? For software, we're looking at the basic necessities at about $35,000. And again, these are annual pricings. The very useful, another $60,000, and the not necessary but life easier is $14,000, giving you a grand total of $110,000. Each one of these, again, is a level that you could choose to do. So you're basically looking at the minimum of $500,000 to about $2 million. And that's not counting your media spend, which, again, depending on your goals, could be anywhere from like $3,000 a month. To me, that's like a bare minimum, to I've worked in organizations spending $250,000 a month. So these are all costs that you can incur if you are doing this in-house. The option, and then I'll go to questions, is to work with an organization like Maple. Maple has all of these experts as part of their team. You can create this similar type of org structure with experts at Maple at a fraction of the cost, because we are all experts in one of these areas, and we can create a program that's going to work with you, again, being goal-based, that we can say, here are our goals, here's how we're going to structure it. There may be one of us, there may be 5 of us, but we're going to work together, and we're going to create the systems that are going to make your department effective. And we are going to do this with our ROI as our final goal. So if this is something that interests you, please do reach out to us at Maple, and we can try to set up some sort of plan for you. And that concludes this part of it. I'm very open to taking questions. after I take a sip of water. Okay. Ben, I don't know if you are going to be feeding me these or if you want me to go through the comments.
Great job, man. I love the presentation. It's fantastic. And now it's time for questions. We've had a few, but let's wait a few more minutes. And everybody just post your questions on whatever your channel you're watching this from. And also you can post scenarios. You can, tell us about the size of your operation, size of your team, what you're looking to grow, which channels you're in, and then Michael could tell you his best advice.
All right. I just while we're waiting, I saw that you answered the CRO question, Ben. But DAM stands for Digital Asset Management. Yep, there we go. So digital asset management, there are paid tools for this, but it really can be as simple as using, like I basically just use Google Drive for this stuff, meaning you create a folder system and you store all of the different types of digital assets that you have. So I'm talking about like videos, content briefs, articles, anything that is a piece of content you should create and then organize by some sort of structure. Again, whether it's a folder system, there are really savvy, sophisticated methods of doing this that work with, say, an A/B testing tool where it will actually integrate with the DAM and it will pull various pieces of the DAM and put it up for various A/B testing. So it may be an image, it may be a video, so that you can automatically test what's working and what's not working. But that's really high level stuff. For most people, it's just enough to create your own folder system. All right. So let's imagine you're just starting a company or getting serious. How long can all this be done by one person? Should it? And not just because of the cost, but just to keep the person sane. Right. Exactly. I totally get why a small business is going to say, this is all great, Michael, but there's no way in hell we can spend $500,000 on a full department. Can we just start with one person? And of course, the answer is yes. However, and this is where I think if you are going to start small, it makes more sense to work with a team like Maple than to have a single person. There are obviously pros and cons. And you can say that I'm biased, but I'll explain why I believe this. Because if you have a strategist, your strategist is going to create the foundation for any sort of future department, but really with your goals in mind. So if you have a strategist and you're paying a fraction of what you would pay for a full-time strategist, they can still do the same work. It may take slightly longer, but they will be able to say, all right, here's my goal. I'm going to create a plan for that goal. And if that plan is based on everything I know about the business, if I can do that within, say, like I can start an SEO program, okay, then we can farm out the content. Or if we want to start with paid media, all right, let's set up a paid media system. We can get a junior campaign manager, again, fraction of the cost, and they can set it up. All of those aspects of each step that I went through, I think can be done more efficiently by a small remote team than can be done by a single person. And I think that's the problem most people do, is that they would say, all right, let's get one person in-house, but then everything dumps on that person. I know because I have been that person, where you are dealing with everything. You're dealing with the minute as well as the large, but you're being judged by your performance on the large goals, which is almost unfair to the operator themselves, because they're probably answering emails on why the website's not working instead of what they should be focusing on. When you work with a team, again, even if it's a part-time team, each person understands their role and they're doing what needs to be done. Good question, though. Is there an estimated cost to a full team? I'd love to understand what can be contract versus team and what is the hourly pay range. Great question. So let me go back to my breakdown. This is, again, just on a salary basis. So if you were to hire a strategist, just basic, if you take a look at LinkedIn, you're not going to see this role for much less than $175,000. Not really, anyway. Not if you're looking to get an actual person with actual skills. And again, if you just say like, okay, I'm going to get just this person and maybe this person and maybe this person. I'm not even going to get a data intelligence person. I'm going to add data intelligence to my director of digital marketing. He should be able to do that, or she should be able to do that. So then we're talking about these three main salaries. So you're talking about, close to $400,000 still in terms of salary. But if you were to say, if a team is doing it, then you can break it down to either a goal-based system or an hourly-based system. So, for example, at Maple, we work by hourly, where we create packages for the most part. And so you can work with a team and say, here's what my budget is, here's what my goals are, what can be done within the scope of what we're trying to achieve with the budget that we have. And then you can try to negotiate something out to where everybody is happy. I think it does make a lot of sense. And obviously that is kind of the underlying subtext of this presentation, is that there are a lot of benefits to having an in-house team. I definitely believe that. But many businesses are not at the level where they can create one. And when you are not at that level, I do believe it makes more sense to have a team, at least, where you're trying to create these things as a team-based department, even if it is remote and even if it may be quote unquote part-time. With the pricings that you can get, you can figure out what's right for you with your budget and make a goal-based program.
I have a question for you. And I know this question people deal with a lot. Let's say you're a startup. Let's say you have a product, it's viable, you have customers, things are moving along, and then you want to expand your marketing. So which channels would you go into first, especially after all the iOS 15 changes? Does it still make sense to start with Facebook ads, or is there other channels that you would recommend?
Great question. I believe that all of this stuff is business dependent. I don't think there's one correct answer. It really depends on, one, where the business is at currently. So you mentioned a startup. If this is a startup that has like zero web presence, meaning nobody is finding them through search engine means, because they just have not established website authority, nor is there sufficient content on their website. So nobody's going to find them unless they're paying for traffic. So what traffic do you pay for? My first answer is, and this is where I would look to the research and say, is this something that people are actively searching for? Meaning, are you a startup that is filling a need that people are looking for? Or are you introducing a new product or service that people would love if they knew that it existed? If they know it exists and they're looking for it, I would recommend doing paid search. If they don't know, then I would recommend paid social to some extent, because you have to educate your market that you exist. If they don't know you exist, they're not going to be searching for you. I see that very, very often. where people are like, search isn't working for me. It's like, because they don't know what to look, they don't know you exist. How are they going to find you? They're not going to search for you. The closest you can get is, there are 4 types of keywords. There's informational, navigational, commercial, and transactional. You may be able to get people informationally, but those are top funnel views, and they're not really you're not going to be selling immediately after that. You're going to have to get them into your funnel. You're going to have to then follow them up with email, and that's going to take a little bit more time. Whereas with social, you can directly talk to them, preferably with something like video or some sort of gamified post where you're interacting with them and you're educating them about what you do. And then they're saying, oh, that's great. I love that idea. I want it. So it really depends.
All right. Great
and
answer.
And as a second point to that, also, it really looks to the scalability of it, right? So if you have a successful channel and you're able to scale it, that's great. If you are doing something that's running at cost or something, it may not be the channel, and you may want to look to another channel to expand upon that. That's something else that I see often, where people are they're getting business from something, but they're not really achieving an ROI with it. If it's not scalable, right, then you want to look elsewhere.
Yeah, just throwing their money and hoping the ROAS will change, and then it doesn't.
Exactly.
And then they run out of marketing budget. Which leads to my next question. How soon, especially for a smaller company, how soon do you recommend hiring a head of marketing or somebody who's like a project manager for all this content creation?
Again, like the order that I have, I think, is a good order to start with. Like, if this is something where you don't know where to begin, get a strategist, get a consultant, or if you're determined to bring it in-house, then hire a director of digital marketing. That should be the first person that you hire. And you may not launch a campaign for a month after hiring that person, or maybe even longer, because their role is to figure out what's going to work. They should present to you quantifiable data that you understand. They should be able to explain it to you in a way that you understand. And you should be confident, okay, this plan makes sense. I expect to make money after X amount of time. So that absolutely is the first. And in terms of when should they do it, whenever they want to start getting serious. That really should be the first hire. I put project manager as second, but again, in a pinch, your director of digital marketing should be able to manage a team, especially if it's a small team, as a project manager, but they really are 2 different skill sets. You can have an analyst who is very good about budgets and all this stuff, but is not good about telling people, you got to have this published by September 25th. You need that kind of person who is very, very good on detail, that should be running a project management team.
Amazing. So we really have 2 tracks here. We have like the track that you want every single role filled and you have the budget, or you have the track where each person can do a little bit of everything. Depends on the size of the company, really.
Yeah, exactly. And again, just to bring it back to Maple, you can see all of these as a different Maple hire as well. All of the roles, or in a similar fashion, where you start small, start with a strategist. If you need a website, then you can get somebody to build your website. You can get somebody to write the content on there. And all of these people should be working together in a team fashion, which will require project management, which will require UX, UI. Like, all of these things will matter no matter what you do.
And it's totally fluid, right? You can try something out for a few months, then go to something else, and still keep, your fractional CMO or that one person managing it all.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely
fluid in that way.
Yeah, and that often happens, especially. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to finish my thought. This often happens, especially with campaign managers. where SEO and social, sometimes it's kind of like baseball where, it doesn't mean that they're a bad operator. It just means sometimes they're not like a relief pitcher. Sometimes you got to change somebody out if they're not executing properly. So it's no shame, but sometimes you see something's not working. It's like, all right, let's try somebody to do another SEO role where, like a paid search or paid social. So you can try different people out, but you really do want to have that kind of core org chart, I think, to make sure that you've got a sound strategy, again, one that you understand and believe in, and that you're executing on it properly. So let me answer this question. How can I ensure freelancers I hire are aware of the algorithm changes and implementing them? Really good question. So there's always, and I've been doing this for 18 years. I really started in SEO. So if you're talking about algorithm changes, I'm assuming you're referring to mostly Google, but there's, of course, TikTok algorithms. There are all different types of algorithms. I'm going to answer this for SEO because it's what I understand best. There are always going to be changes to the algorithm, but the fundamentals do not change and have not changed for at least, in my opinion, 8 years, when a lot of the major changes like Panda happened. Google has telegraphed what they wanted to do even before that, probably back to 2012, saying, here's what you need. You need quality content with expertise, authority, and trust, what they call EAT. You need to have a sound website that is a good user experience, which means it's mobile friendly, it's fast, it's not loaded up with JavaScript, and there are all these tools that can help you evaluate these things. And you have the sufficient amount of content that is going to be indexable. And this is a major issue I always see. People just don't write enough content. They'll have a page with like 100 words on it, and they're like, it's not showing up. It's like, well, if you only have 100 words to explain something, you're probably not going to be as authoritative on the subject as somebody who's using 1,000 words to explain the same thing. And they're using a lot of different contextual clues that tells Google this is a quality piece. But the most important thing, which will never change, at least I doubt it will ever change, is that of backlinks as authority. Now, what is considered an authoritative backlink has changed over my lifetime, but backlinks are kind of what is baked into the Google algorithm. So you should be confident that the person you're working with is able to answer these type of simple questions. They understand the fundamentals. And if they are worth their salt, sure, they're reading on a regular basis different pieces. You may want to inquire what they read and what how they learn more about their skill set. But if they don't have the fundamentals, it's not going to matter. The fundamentals aren't going to change. And I would venture to say that goes for all different type of algorithmic structures.
For sure. And I think people freak out so much about changes, but in Maple, at least we vet each marketer. So we know, how many years have they had experience in a certain specific channel, whether they have worked in the last few years in that channel, or whether they're up to date in their knowledge. So there's definitely, if you use a platform like Maple, then you get all that trust there. One more question.
That's a really good question. So when do you feel is the right time to grow the team? That's a really good question. In my opinion, it is when the workload becomes too much for the current team. Now, there may be budgetary concerns that preclude that, but if you feel that your team is getting bogged down and you're growing and there are a lot of things that they need to be doing, and things are getting left behind, deadlines aren't being met, that's when you want to say, okay, where is the weak link? What is it? Is it content? Do we need somebody to help write with content? So you should be, with your reporting, knowing what's breaking down and then being able to say, based on this breakdown, is this a lack of time, of manpower? Do we need somebody to help with this? It's another reason why reporting is so important at every level, that you understand what's working, what's not working, and what needs to be addressed. So I would say by workload.
Great. But also on the revenue side, like what if you have a team and it's just they're not bringing their worth,
So if you're underperforming with revenue, and so let's take that as a hypothetical. There's too much work and they're underperforming with revenue. So it may be that they're not hitting their goals because, and that may be counterintuitive, but you may not be hitting your goals because they're not being able to achieve the tasks necessary to achieve their goals. If, on the other hand, you are starting small and you're not achieving, I really do think, like, even as I go backwards mentally on that, it's often the case. It could be a strategic issue. You may have the wrong strategy and you may need to address that. But if you are confident in the strategy and you're underperforming, it's almost always that you aren't completing the necessary tasks to achieve your goals. In my experience, that's the number one killer, is that everybody's got great ideas, but they're not executing them. And you have to ask, is that lack of execution a problem with the current staff, or is it a problem with that they are too bogged down with the tasks at hand and they need help? So these are all questions. I don't know that there's a perfect answer. I don't know if that's a good answer to your question, but that's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
Amazing. So it really depends. But those are some great pointers. And that's all the time we have today. I do want to share that we do have a link here. If you want to talk to one of our experts, just jump on the call and we will match you with the right expert in whatever channel you're in. We also do strategy. So if you just want somebody to take a look at everything you're doing and give you, their great feedback, we can do that. And we have a coupon that you can use, Maple Boost 250, to get $250 off. And that is the story. We got some great events planned for next month. And again, reach out if you want to work with Michael. If you want Michael to take a look at the channels in your strategy, reach out, click on the link or reach out on the site. And you can also reach out to Michael directly on LinkedIn. And Michael, you're awesome. Really loved your talk. I think it was really great information.
Perfect. Happy to do it. Look forward to the next one.
All right. We'll catch you soon.
Take care,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.